Turning now to wrap up your top stories of the day. We are on top of breaking news in Southwest Charlotte, where a person has serious injuries after an early morning stabbing. It happened on Tyvola, just off 77. We've reached out to police to see what led up to that stabbing.
The Red Cross is stepping in to help families impacted by a massive apartment fire. Several families are now out of their homes after flames ripped through the Aurora Station apartments. 6 people were taken to the hospital, including 3 with life-threatening injuries. The Red Cross tells us at least 20 units were impacted.
Good Friday morning, Richard Vane outside the convention center here in Uptown Charlotte, where this weekend they'll mark the 116th National Convention of the NAACP, the first time it's been in the Queen City since 1996. Thousands of folks expected to attend this year's theme. The convention, I should say, the fierce urgency of now is the theme, and it is expected to generate an economic impact of about $17 million right here for the Queen City.
All right, this morning we're following the serious accident where at least one person has been stuck in this car for a little while now. Paramedics still on scene. It seems like really the ramp is being mainly impacted. Mount Holly at I-485 there. So if you want to avoid it, just take Bellmead Drive. That's going to be your best bet to get around that. Chris, how's the weather today?
Hot, humid, and a chance for storms. Today, I think, is actually the least likely that you see any thunderstorms across the area. And then Saturday's the best chance for rain this weekend. And then Sunday, it's mainly east of I-77. After that, the peak, 95, and then the lower 90s with daily storm chances. So welcome to July, everyone. This is what it looks like.
Guess we'll take it.
Lower 90s seems nice and mild.
Exactly, Ben.
I guess it's all relative, Chris. All right, a reminder, the news isn't in here. We're live all day long with breaking news, weather, and traffic.
We're streaming now on WCNC Plus. Join us there.
Streaming live right now at 7 a.m. right here on WCNC Plus. I'm Ben Thompson.
And I'm Megan Bragg in for Lisa. Another warm day.
That's right.
But at least we're not, weather alert, weather aware, what weather. We're like,
Yeah, just weather. July weather.
Just weather.
That's nice to have, right? Yeah, we don't need any alerts for today, and nor do we have any this weekend. And it looks like next week you'd have a general chance for scattered thunderstorms. I think the only way that we see that is if we can get a front to drag into the area, which is a possibility, or if we're going to have rain event after rain event across one area, especially the I-40 corridor. That's one to kind of focus on. If we're getting a lot of rain there, that's where we've seen the most across our 22 counties that we cover. Visibility is at 9. That's drivable, but you likely are seeing some low-hanging clouds overhead in Mecklenburg County, and it's a little bit lower here in Gastonia, but once they drop to the ground, we're calling it fog, and that visibility now updated to a 1 in Shelby, but the opposite direction for Morganton. These are the brand new updates at the top of the 7 o'clock hour, a 0. So the most dangerous drive right now, Burke County, a 0 along I-40 and some of the side roads in Morganton, and then down to a quarter-mile newest update here in Statesville. So those are the worst spots, but one new one on the map compared to what we were talking about on WCNC. We now have a quarter-mile visibility over in Albemarle, so it's all over the place, and this actually correlates to where we saw some of the heaviest rain over the last couple of days. It was heaviest right here along I-40. It was heaviest to the eastern side of our viewing area, and then parts down in the south. Meanwhile, Charlotte's just sitting in the middle, barely getting anything over the last couple of days, only 1/10 of an inch combined. And our Lylesville camera showing some of those thick and darker clouds even. I have no active rain popping up. Might be a little mist in a few of these clouds. And then also Monroe looking pretty cloudy. So yeah, maybe not the most motivational start to your day, but look at that blue sky. Now this is 1,450 feet up, and we're starting to see those clouds rise up, so soon we're not going to see the blue sky, but this is a testament to what's happening right now. We have low clouds about 1,000 feet above our heads, and then as we warm up the day, these are going to burn off. So then suddenly at one point, really especially between about 10 to 1 o'clock, depending where you are, all of a sudden you're going to see a lot of blue sky that is above our heads. You just might not be looking at it right now. 80 degrees for a high around Boone, mixed clouds and sunshine, chance for storms, but I think it's more so in the foothills that we're seeing that about early to mid-afternoon. 90 degrees for a high for you right around Hickory, so good morning to you around Catawba County. And then we have the lower 90s up and down, west to east, depending on what direction you're going, even though it's northbound, southbound, obviously. From Gastonia over to Charlotte, up through Concord. I'll name a couple others. Kings Mountain over there to Shelby, looking at 92 degrees along 74. And speaking of 74, along Highway 74, heading off towards the east, temperatures get a little bit hotter in Rockingham at 94 degrees. So we're actually at the peak. So quick little stat. July 11th is when we move on to an average high of 91. This isn't really a big deal, but I'm really showing you that on average, this is the hottest time of the year from July 11th to the July 21st. On the 22nd, we move back down to 90. Now, these are decimal points difference, but it's really once you get into August that we start to see that downward slide. The August 9th averages 89 and then 88 on August 19th. And then after that, it's about every 5 to 7 days that we lose a degree, then every 5 days heading into September. So our Futurecast right now showing some thick clouds to begin the day on a typical July day. And as I mentioned, a little bit of mist is possible. We're seeing signs of that here on the Futurecast. We will start to see that cloud cover really start to break from 10 to noon. So it might be a little bit of a patient game at first. And then that mix of cloud and sunshine, you're going to notice those little flat bottom clouds look like cotton balls. Those are cumulus clouds. Once they start growing vertically, you're going to notice, okay, things are turning over us. Once they start getting a little bit darker, you're going to have that thunderstorm potential. I will show you a different version of this a little bit later on in the half hour, but this model is showing that showers and storms are a good possibility, I would say, from Lincolnton to Morganton from about 2 to 6 o'clock, and then they work their way close to Charlotte and they start to fade out a little bit. So I'm still going to keep a chance for a storm heading into the early afternoon, but there are some indications that not much is actually going to be happening. I'm looking at a little more confidence for your Saturday. If you have any plans up to noon, I think you're okay. Up to 1 o'clock, I think you're fine. It's really from about 2 to 4 that we start to see a blank slate late, go to an isolated storm environment, and these even scatter at times heading into the evening hours. So Saturday, as of right now, looks to be the best chance for rain. Still, a lot of us are going to stay dry. We saw what Charlotte did when we had widely scattered to widespread storms. And your Sunday, we have a chance for storms starting a little bit earlier, so as early as noon, but it looks to be most active really from Concord off towards the southeast. Charlotte is within that bubble, but we really don't have too much activity further off towards the west. So again, Saturday is your best chance for rain this coming weekend. Those are all your rain chances for at least the near term. 93 for a high on Saturday, and then Sunday we are up to 94 degrees. 7 days after that, well, we have 95 to 91 to 90 over the next 7 days of July. So welcome to the hottest part, at least climatologically, in the month of July, with the usual pop-up showers and storms. Just some days are a little bit more scattered than others. Heading over to Majestic, see what's going on. You've been quite busy over the last hour.
Yeah, and it's still busy out there. For those of you just waking up and joining us this morning, good Friday morning to you. We'll start with this live look outside I-77 coming in from York County. Not seeing any major slowdowns out that direction. Mainly cloudy skies, dry roads, may encounter some patchy fog at times. Continuing to follow this, we have one serious crash where at least one person was trapped in this car and sent off to the hospital. Medics are currently on scene here. It's on Mount Holly Road at I-485, and the latest update is that inbound roads at Mount Holly Road, that is currently blocked. So your alternate route to get around this is going to be to take Bellmead Drive. It's right here, and that's going to get you right back onto 485 there. In addition to that, we have one lane that's blocked. It's out there at the airport loop. Not seeing any major backup, still seeing a lot of green, but kind of inconvenient as people are typically in a rush as they're heading out to the airport this morning, so do keep that in mind. Otherwise, we do have that patchy fog here and there, just indicated in areas shaded in that orange, so reduced visibility. You may encounter it at times, but it's not widespread at this point. A quick check on those roads as you're heading out the door. The times about 21 minutes if you're coming in from Matthews and about 30 if you're coming in from Gastonia. We'll have another check on our traffic updates, all coming up here shortly. Ben.
Majestic, thanks. We continue to follow breaking news overnight. Everybody's okay after a car crashed into an apartment complex in West Charlotte. This is video. Our crews got there at the scene on Romare Beer Drive. This is right off West Boulevard. It's not clear why that car crashed, but thankfully nobody was seriously injured. We're also on top of breaking news in Southwest Charlotte, where one person has serious injuries after an early morning stabbing. Take a look at your map. It happened on Tybola Road right off I-77. We've reached out to CMPD to find out what led up to that stabbing. And the Red Cross helping families this morning after this massive fire in an apartment complex. We first brought you this as breaking news yesterday morning. Several families now out of their homes after those flames ripped through the Aurea Station apartments. 6 people taken to the hospital in all, 3 with life-threatening injuries. The Red Cross tells us 20 units were impacted. Coming up in about 30 minutes, Destiny Richards is going to join us with a look at some of that damage.
Looking ahead this morning, tens of thousands of people will be in the Queen City this weekend for the NAACP National Convention. It officially kicks off tomorrow in Uptown. WCNC Charlotte's Richard Devane is live in Uptown this morning with a preview of what people can expect. Good morning, Richard.
Good morning, Megan. Good morning, Ben. Good Friday morning to all our folks out there on the Plus. Basically, a lot of things can be expected from this convention this year. They say there'll be a lot of panels, a lot of discussions, a lot of planning. They say one thing we won't see here at the 116th National Convention of the NAACP, you won't see the president. Now, this is a big event coming here. Thousands, as you said, expected to descend on the Charlotte area for the 116th National Convention. We can tell you it's called, the theme this year is The Fierce Urgency of Now. That echoes Martin Luther King's Jr. iconic call for immediate action. City leaders hail the convention as a major civic moment. The mayor actually called hosting the convention a celebration of shared progress, while organizers anticipate an economic boost to the Queen City of around $17 million. As the convention begins, panels and workshops will focus on pressing issues, mental health, voting rights, defending democracy, and supporting Black-owned businesses. The convention's return to Charlotte is both symbolic and strategic. It's the first time since 1996 that the convention has been in the Queen City, and they say they want to chart a path forward in an intensely polarized political movement. In a historic move, the NAACP president and CEO Derek Johnson says that his organization will not invite the sitting president, Donald Trump. That breaks a continuous tradition dating back 116 years, or for the history of the whole convention. Johnson criticized Trump's policies and actions, including executive orders, military deployments in domestic communities, and civil rights rollbacks, as directly opposed to the NAACP's mission.
Look, the NAACP has 116 years of civil rights advocacy and activism. Anything that you've accomplished in this country was done because of the NAACP's work. When you look at the unions, when you look at workers, when you look at women, when you look at black people and people of color, immigrants, all of it is because of the work that the NAACP did and continues to do.
It's very important that we come together, mobilize, and organize with all the detrimental things that have happened within the political spectrum.
And that's why they say it's important to come. They say they have a number of events for the entire community to come out and enjoy, take part in. They say the best way to get involved is to get up and get out and come out. We're right here at the convention center. Guys, we'll send it back to you.
And Richard, just a question for you. Any reaction for the president not being invited to this or not showing up to this?
Yeah, when we talk about the president, and as we talk about what's going on here at the convention, we can tell you that the president was, as usual, you get to hear some very colorful things from our commander-in-chief. And when it came to this event, we actually heard him talk about the fact that this organization, while good, he wishes that they had a better stance on what was going on here. And exactly, he still reiterated the fact that he believes that what he should do and what he has done for black people in this country.
All right,
there you have it.
All right, Richard.
People of color in this country.
All right, Richard, thank you so much.
All right, 7-Eleven right now. A CMPD officer recovering this morning after a serious crash in Ballantyne. Take a look at some of this video. It happened near Johnston Road and Brixham Hill Avenue yesterday. You can see the police car heavily damaged. The crash nearly ripped the entire front end off of the cruiser. We're still working to find out what led up to the crash and how that officer is doing as of this morning. A Cornelius police officer suspended without pay this morning after an interaction involving a dog inside a hot car. We told you about it when it happened last month. About a woman who says she broke into a car while a dog was inside because it had no air conditioning on and the windows were barely cracked. She tells us the officer then yelled at her, saying she had no right to be in somebody else's car. She thought she was doing a good thing here. Now Cornelius police tell us that officer is suspended and the chief is also issuing an apology to the community.
New this morning, CMS is pleading with federal officials over major funding issues. The Department of Education is withholding over $6 billion in federal grants nationwide while it reviews whether they, quote, align with President Trump's priorities. For CMS, that means the district could lose $12 million in funding. In response, the board sent a letter to the Department of Education asking them to reverse the decision. And as we prepare for more rain chances later today, we're getting a better look at the damage from strong storms earlier this week.
WCNC Charlotte's Siobhan Riley spoke with folks in the Oakhurst community who say they've been dealing with water issues for more than a decade.
This is where it is! It's coming into our house!
A Charlotte woman who lives in the Oakhurst community who wants to remain anonymous sent me this video capturing the last time she experienced severe flooding in her backyard, June 12th. She says it happened so quickly. She says this is what her backyard looked like 4 minutes prior.
It was up into here. I mean, you look at that creek. It's that big and that deep. That was, 8 foot deep probably.
Byron York, who also lives in the neighborhood, says the recent flooding is the worst he's seen in the 10 years he's lived here.
Neighbors say at one point the water got so high that it came over this bridge. Their biggest fear is finding snakes in their yard, and they want the city to take action.
It came up in a matter of less than an hour and was going over the bridge in the back and came up the furthest into my yard I've ever seen it.
After a resident reached out to the city sent her this statement. It reads in part, the storm occurring June 12th exceeded the threshold for which the city of Charlotte designed systems for. However, the channel behind your home is currently in the city's ranking system for further evaluation due to a previous request.
It's frustrating. I have to clean up the yard, or I have to pay my yard guy to clean it up.
In Charlotte, Siobhan Riley, WCNC Charlotte.
Several parks across North Carolina are closed this morning due to damage from Tropical Storm Chantel. Those include Jordan Lake, Falls Lake, and several others that you can see on your screen. If you're headed out this weekend, make sure you check websites or call ahead for the most up-to-date information. And if you did have an upcoming camping reservation at an affected park, expect to be contacted about alternate campsites or a possible full refund. Well, good news for people in Mebane this morning. The city says people are now able to shower again amid an ongoing water shortage. Businesses are also able to reopen, but only with 60% of the normal staffing. For now, the city has set up bottled water distribution sites. People there say they're also trying to help loved ones get by.
I was getting water for my mom-in-law and stuff. Yeah, you gotta look out the old people.
I got a young son at the house, and I'm working 12 hours, so it was very helpful. And I'm gonna try the grocery store as soon as I leave here to see if they have any water as well.
We're gonna make it.
While the restrictions are loosened for now, the city warns they could reinstate tougher restrictions at any point. Now to the latest in the flood recovery in Texas.
Let us pray to the Lord.
Lord, hear our prayers. A community gathering to pray overnight and remember 4 Southeast Texans killed in last week's deadly flooding. It's one of many services held in the last few days to honor victims. It's now been 1 week since the Texas Hill country actually changed forever. This morning, the death toll sits at 121, with 173 people still missing. 161 of those are in Kerr County. The flooding stemmed from slow-moving storms that overwhelmed places like the Guadalupe River. And Ben, this is not the first time that area has seen this type of flooding.
It's not. Megan, I want to show you something. You can take a look here behind me. You can see a time lapse of the river. It rose 26 feet in nearly 45 minutes. You can see folks over on the other side there. This is a closer look at some of the damage there and some of the flooding. The thing is, nearly 40 years ago, the Guadalupe River rose 3 feet and higher in that same amount of time, killing 10 people then. As a new tragedy unfolds, Allie Spilliard sits down with one of the survivors from the 1987 flood.
They hurried us up early that morning, maybe 6 or so, and said we needed to hurry up and get out of the camp, that there was some flooding in the area.
It's been 38 years and still Tara Chatham vividly remembers.
Our bus stalled out, and then the van that was behind us stalled out.
At 14 years old, she says she'd accepted death.
But all of a sudden, we were all holding hands, and a big wall of water just came and sent us all downriver.
On July 17, 1987, Chatham and her brother Scott were among the more than 40 students from Bulch Springs Christian Academy, forced to cling to trees in the swollen Guadalupe. Scott helped pull friends higher. Despite a battle with leukemia he'd soon lose, Chatham was swept further downstream.
I mean, it came so fast, though. The water was just rushing so fast.
10 students died that day. For years, Chatham did her best to bury the grief. On a cloudy day at the Bulch Springs Christian Academy, she says she has no memory of sitting down with NBC5 in 1988.
About when I was in the river and when I was going under and everything.
Then Friday, it all resurfaced as history repeated itself. Once again, summer camp children among the dead and missing.
All of the pictures of the running river and the trees and the helicopters saving, it brought up a lot of the emotions.
While many can't begin to imagine the grief felt by those left behind, Chatham's walked in their shoes.
This is Sergeant Seal, so he's the one that risked his life. And he got out on the skids of the helicopter, and he's a state trooper. And pulled me up by the hair of my head and my shorts.
Having survived her own nightmare, she urges those just beginning theirs to lean on their faith.
That we have hope that we will see them again, and God will be with us and, carry us through.
And listen, we know a lot of you have been wondering, how can I help? What can I do? Well, WCNC Charlotte, in conjunction with our parent company, has helped set up a Texas Relief Fund to support some of those neighbors there. All you got to do is scan that QR code to donate on your screen. Every dollar you give goes directly to those in need. All right, let's bring in Chris. Chris, just amazing when you see some of the video, when you hear, it has happened there in the past, which is often true with a lot of these places. They're prone to flooding, and if it's happened once, it will likely happen again.
And as we know, the South Fork River in Gaston County is usually the first one to flood around our area. Of course, we have areas here in Charlotte. But the reason why I bring that up, it was actually the South Fork of the Guadalupe River that was the biggest deal for Camp Mystic that was swolled up. And you also have the North Fork. All that meets together, and that leads to some epic flooding. That's why this area is literally known as Flash Flood Alley. But let's compare the two. Comfort, Texas and Hunt, Texas are very close to one another. But the first one, 1987, where we had that bus incident, there was 5 to 10 inches of rain that fell. Now, at the time, that was the second highest crest in Comfort. It was a little bit higher in Hunt. That's the second highest in Hunt history as well. It was 28 feet is what it rose, quickly rising over 22 feet in a short period of time. There were 10 fatalities. 10 teenagers came with that, multiple people injured. Now, for this one, it's actually more rain. 5 to 12 inches with some locally higher amounts, and an all-time record of 37.52 feet here along the Guadalupe River in Hunt, Texas. There are over 100 fatalities. We don't have that absolute number, and it looks like it's going to be much higher because there's still over 100 missing, as we just mentioned. Now, the big difference here is there was little to no warning for this one. There's actually 22 warnings in general from the National Weather Service in the area for this rain that was coming down. There was just kind of a disconnect from emergency management, and then also that water came up so fast that some people were already in danger and they didn't even realize it because they were sleeping. And the worst part of this is a meteorologist looking at everything. If this is during the day, they would have seen the rising water, and those girls and people on the river would have been able to move away. But everyone was sleeping, and then that means it just came up slowly, but it also came up fast, quickly rising over 12 feet within an hour at one given time, really during the late 3 o'clock hour to 4 o'clock. So 2 tragic events, but the sad thing is history does tend to repeat itself, and it certainly did nearly 40 years later. Moving over to our forecast, blue sky, but I don't see blue sky from where I'm standing. And the reason why is because it's up here and we have these low level clouds. This can sometimes drop down and lead to some fog, as we've been mentioning. And you can see also a cloudy sky through this camera over in around Monroe. Monroe, speaking of, you're at 72 degrees in Union County, 72 up and down in Lancaster as well, 70 for you in Statesville, and then 68 right around Morganton. So what's happening today? Well, we're reaching those highs into the lower 90s. Yesterday we were smack dab on the nose, 90 degrees. Like yesterday, we're waiting for the clouds to clear. Late morning into the early afternoon, depending where you are, all of a sudden you'll see those blue skies that I was showing you over in Dallas, and then we'll have a nice mix of cloud and sunshine, and we're waiting on a potential rain shower. But I want to get to what's called the HRRR, the High Resolution Rapid Refresh. You didn't need to know that. I just like saying HRRR. But you see a few of those isolated showers and storms. This model is been a little inconsistent recently, but it's actually been nailing in the last couple of days. So we're going to go with this, because the other one that I showed you at the top of the hour showed rain jogging its way to the Charlotte area by the evening hours. Check this out. It still keeps rain in the same area, fires it up at the same time, but then once you get to the end of the afternoon, a lot of this fades out, and we've been kind of seeing that around Charlotte. If we had a lot of rain recently, we would have been able to fire up a lot more activity, but it is agreeing that there's going to be more of an active sky as early as 2 to 3 o'clock here on the map. We're on our Futurecast for your Saturday. Look at that. Scattered showers and storms hovering around the Charlotte area. Not a guarantee that you're going to get them, but I've been telling people if you do things earlier in the day, you're going to be just fine. Before noon, guarantee that you're going to avoid those showers. Muggy meter today overall, still muggy, but it does get a little bit better for the afternoon compared to the last few days. Overnight tonight dropping down to 73. Tomorrow 93, 94 to conclude your weekend, 95 on Monday, and then after that, the lower 90s. So we're staying optimistic. At least it's only the lower 90s, not 98 degrees like what you had, Majestic, on Monday and Tuesday.
Yeah, it was really hot, so I think we'll take this little back near where we should be for this time of the year. Heading out the door this morning, take a look at your TV screen. It is very cloudy outside. Not the most beautiful start to the day, but like Chris said, we'll get a little sunshine as we head towards later on in the afternoon. Live look outside here, I-77, York County. Looks to be flowing just fine. No significant slowdowns on our interstates this morning. but I am still following this ongoing crash right here. A couple of things that are currently ongoing. Still following a serious accident where at least one person was stuck in their car. Paramedics did show up on scene. That person did get sent to the hospital, and we're still seeing those backups. It's on Mount Holly Road at I-485. The latest update is that inbound on Mount Holly Road, it's currently blocked. So that's why we're seeing all of those backups there. So if you just don't want to deal with any of that, I do just suggest taking the alternate route, which would be Bellmead Drive. You can see it right here, and that'll take you right back onto I-485. Another thing we're watching carefully for you is a bumper-to-bumper accident right here. It's on the airport loop. We don't have significant slowdowns, but most of the time when people are heading to the airport, they're already kind of in a rush, so that might slow you down just a few minutes. A little bit of patchy fog out there. Otherwise, that's what I'm looking at for now. We'll have another check on those roads coming up here shortly.
All right, Majestic, thanks. Live pictures right now over a foggy uptown. Heads up if you're headed out right now. More news, weather, and traffic streaming right here on WCNC Plus.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to your Friday. Not a bad weekend ahead. However, not a great start for some of us. For that fog down to a 0 right around Morganton. Only a quarter-mile visibility up and around North Wilkesboro. And now we're starting to see some improvements around Statesville. So over the next hour or two, expect some dense fog from place to place. Not Charlotte, though. You're at 73 degrees. And by the afternoon, high temperatures reaching the lower 90s yet again for day 5 in a row of 90+. But realistically feeling like the upper 90s. Your 7-day forecast getting a degree warmer each day through Monday. After that, the lower 90s, so a nice improvement, but each day has a chance for storms. Least likely chance for storms is actually today and Sunday over the next 7. Majestic, let's get over to you to see what's going on for your morning commute.
All right, good Friday morning, everyone. If you're heading out the door, there's a few things I want to let you know about. Still following one serious wreck. It's right here where we do have the exit ramp that is now blocked. It's to I-485 southbound to Mount Holly Road westbound. You can see that ramp right there. It's blocked because of a serious accident this morning where one person got stuck in their car. Paramedics did arrive and that person was sent off to the hospital. Not only do we have that one wreck, the second one just popped up near that same exact area. Lane now is blocked because of a crash there on Mount Holly Road westbound at I-485 at exit 14. Take it easy.
Good morning, and thank you for joining us on this Friday live on WCNC Plus at 7:30. I'm Megan Bragg, in for Lisa.
And I'm Ben Thompson. More than a dozen families are out of homes this morning after this massive fire ripped through a South Charlotte apartment complex.
Now an investigation is underway to figure out what caused this. WCNC Charlotte's Destiny Richards is live for us this morning. And Destiny, it looks like that building is damaged beyond repair.
Yeah, right now we can see just the damage left behind now that it's brighter outside this morning. Behind me, you can see the apartment that was damaged. Up above there, the windows are boarded now. And then we see obviously a lot of debris in this area. And it looks like some other apartments around it may have gotten smoke damage. We obviously can't go behind this caution tape and see more, but definitely have not seen anyone around this morning. But it's been more than 24 hours. Families are still feeling the impacts of this. We know that the Red Cross is working to help dozens of displaced residents. And it was yesterday that residents came back to try to salvage what they could. And a lot of families are still trying to figure out their next steps. The Charlotte Fire Department says the calls started coming in about flames and thick black smoke here at the Aria Station Apartments around 5:30 yesterday morning. 11 people were inside this unit that burned and 6 people were hurt, some with life-threatening injuries. The fire woke up residents in the middle of the night, many having to run out with just the clothes on their back.
Well, I was sleeping and then I just heard like a loud sound, like an explosion. I came outside to the porch and I just saw a bunch of smoke.
And it's devastating to just think about the cost of living too and having to replace all your stuff, and on top of that your medical bills, and now you don't have a secure place to stay.
We know that at least 20 units have been impacted, and there are signs on the building saying that the building is deemed unsafe this morning. Now, we have seen people around the apartment, but no one directly going into any of the impacted apartments around this burned one. But there was a woman who says her daughter lived in one of the units that was impacted. She drove by earlier this morning and told us that her daughter said that she did not hear a smoke alarm whenever this fire happened. She also complained just about the amount of people that were in the unit that burned. Again, we're still waiting to figure out what exactly caused this fire, but a lot of families that are in pain and hurting and confused by what happened.
And Dustin, do we know at this point, I know it's early on, but I mean, do we know what's going to happen with that building or these families long term? And I know we say that the building is beyond sort of repair. So what happens there and what happens to those families then?
Yeah, so at this time, we know that the cause is still under investigation, but with these families that are displaced, it was one of the residents that we spoke to yesterday. You saw her, Sydney. She said that the apartment complex and the Red Cross are trying to help with finding temporary housing for these families, some of them trying to help them with getting into other vacant apartments that are on the property. But as for the building itself, again, we're just kind of seeing the damage and everything frozen in time here, and the sign that says the building is deemed unsafe. So hopefully we learn more from the Charlotte Fire Department. It's their Charlotte Fire Task Investigation Force Investigation Task Force, excuse me, that's investigating this. So hopefully we'll know more about the building, but for right now they're trying to keep people off the property.
And hopefully some of those spare units are available, as you said. All right, Destiny, thank you so much. All right, turning now to your forecast right now at 7:34 here on WCNC Plus and Chris Mulcahy.
Let's start with a random weather stat. Through 10 days of July, that's actually the 11th warmest first 10 days of July in Charlotte history, and that record-keeping dates back to 1879. So that's quite substantial. An average temperature of 82.95. That's averaging the highs and lows together and then divided by 2. And you're expecting a pretty significant change in the forecast as we work our way through this weekend. One day by day, we're going to see see a change in our highs, but then also we're not seeing as much of a weather alert threat where you're seeing constant rain chances going on. 92 degrees is going to be your high. We lost our downtown Monroe camera, but it's back. We have some pretty thick clouds out and about, so some patchy dense fog is going to be a possibility. The lower 90s still feeling as much as 98 degrees. Some of us closing in at 100 degrees. I think you could feel like 100 on and off through the weekend, though. Check out our visibility. Is not an issue here in Charlotte. It's really areas that have seen the most rain over the last couple of days. When you have a clear sky and when you have a calm wind, mix those together with that saturated soil, you have, boom, the perfect chance for some of that patchy, dense fog. And then it's really around the half-mile visibility and Rutherfordton. I always have such a hard time saying that name. And then a 2.5-mile visibility right around Rockingham. So 70 to 71 is going to be our dew point meter, and that's keeping us in that muggy range throughout the course of today, tomorrow, and guess what? By your Sunday and into next week. And as long as you have those values with temperatures at least in the lower 90s, you're going to feel like the upper 90s. But once you get a little bit close to the mid 90s, keeping those values around, you can feel as much as about 100 to 101. I think that's going to be our max. And that really has been our average max this year. We did hit a 105 and a 109 to 110, but those are extreme. This is usually the bottom peak that we struggle to get past. Weekend forecast 93 on Saturday, but 94 on Sunday. The big difference is here, the icons. You have a flashing thunderstorm for your Saturday. That's because it's a better chance. And our rainfall chances, once you get to 40%, we're going to use the word scattered, and that's the norm of most of the 7-day forecast. It's really only today and tomorrow the best chances to stay dry. So let's get to your rain chances, help you plan your weekend. Today's going to be interesting. Most of the day, letting you know, if you live along the I-77 corridor, Charlotte, I think you're dry most of the day. By the evening, you have a chance into the early evening. But here's the deal. We're seeing signs that these showers and storms start to dissipate once they get to around Cleveland County to Lincolnton. And you don't see much further off towards the east. This script is going to flip by the end of the weekend, but there's a good chance that most of us stay dry, but a stray storm is not out of the realm of possibility to begin the evening hours close to Charlotte, and maybe an isolated one by the late afternoon. Tomorrow, a much better chance. I think that you're dry before noon to 1, but then you really start to see a change in the atmosphere. You'll literally see these guys forming off in the horizon, and scattered showers and thunderstorms begin as early as 1 o'clock for some of us, starting to really build around the 2 to 4 time frame. I think they're most scattered closer to about 6 o'clock, and then they start to erode as we approach sunset, as we lose some of that peak instability. And then beyond that, here it is. You are looking at a few blank spots here on the map, allowing for us to try to avoid some of that rain for your Sunday. But there's a chance for rain really on the back end of this. So tomorrow's forecast, highs right around the lower to the mid 90s with a real feel anywhere from 98 to 100 for the maximum. I just think tomorrow, again, after 1 o'clock is going to be our best potential. So here's another look at your Saturday. More of those scattered showers and thunderstorms that are going to be developing across the area. This is actually looking at a little convergence. This is called outflow boundaries meeting here in Charlotte. So even heading into the evening, that would support some longer lasting showers and storms. For your Sunday, though, I see activity as early as noon. So this is the earliest fire up that I see, but this is also the most blank that most of our map's going to be for the weekend. The highest chance is further off towards the east, and then once you get into the evening, we're dissipating things, but still a stray storm will be a possibility. So again, if you do things in the mornings, you're going to be just fine. After that, well, welcome to July. You usually have these slightly higher chances for rain, especially if you have lingering troughs and stationary fronts. That's what's happening. It just gives an extra lift to the atmosphere. 7-day forecast, lower to the mid 90s and then back to low 90s. So as Ben was saying earlier, hey, at least it's only 90, and that's going to be the case in scenario the middle of next week. More clouds, but also better chances for showers and storms, which can kick down those temperatures. But hey, we have 2 Charlotte FC matches in town, so that's exciting. Focusing in on the 7-day forecast. Hopefully nothing too exciting in the traffic world. Let's double check. Majestic.
Well, the good news is the one that I've been talking about for a while now has since been cleared. So the biggest accident that I've been focused on this morning is no longer ongoing. Let's start with this, though. If you're just waking up and joining us, good morning to you. A lot of cloud coverage out there, no rain, but we are dealing with pockets of dense fog. So just make sure you're mindful of that. There's I-77 Gold Hill Road. You can see that's out there in York County. Otherwise, as we switch it over to my live traffic maps, this is where the accident was, where at least one person got trapped inside of their car and they were sent to the hospital. You can see conditions are mainly green now, so that has since cleared. Another thing we're following is right here. There is a lane that's blocked out there on the loop at the airport. So if you're heading that way, you might want to allow for a few extra minutes to get there. Otherwise, off to the east, we have an ongoing crash at Trade Street and Wells Meadow Drive. Starting to see some more yellow back up with that, meaning just some medium impacts. No blocked lanes or anything like that. We do have a block lane road right here, though. It's out there towards Tryon Street and Siloam Church Road. We'll continue to follow that, seeing some orange there. Still, you can get around it. It's just going to take a little bit longer than it typically would. Taking a bigger picture perspective of what's going on, you can still see those pockets of orange right there. That's where the fog is going to be the densest. Even right here in York County, good morning to everyone. It seems like most of that really dense fog is going to be just west of Rock Hill. We'll have another check on those roads coming up in just a few minutes, but Megan, that's what I'm looking at for now.
All right, thanks, Majestic. A man is waking up behind bars this morning after he allegedly tried to kidnap a woman for the second time. Authorities arrested Logan Calloway in South Carolina Wednesday. He's accused of assaulting his ex-girlfriend and taking her from her home. It comes after he was arrested for kidnapping the same victim in Matthews just last month. He was released on bond 1 week later.
We would consider Logan a very dangerous offender. Obviously, within a 30 to 60 day time frame, he has accrued numerous felony charges, including multiple counts of kidnapping the same victim while there's an active domestic violence protection order against him from this victim. So he is clearly not obeying or abiding by the court's orders.
Authorities tell us the victim was with Calloway when they arrested him. She was taken to a nearby hospital for evaluation.
New updates this morning in the Shanquella Robinson case. We're now learning one of the women accused is now claiming self-defense in the case. In a new filing, Imani Green says any altercation with Robinson was started by Robinson herself. That filing also says Robinson did not tell anybody about possible medical issues that she was facing. Shanquella's family is suing the 6 people who traveled with her on that fatal trip to Mexico. 7:41 right now on WCNC+. We're learning more about new charges in that Kings Mountain immigration raid last month. On June 25th, ICE agents detained 30 people at the Buckeye Fire Equipment. Overnight, we got new documents, though, that show several of those people are now accused of re-entering the country illegally. This morning, it's not clear if anybody at the company is going to face charges.
Looking ahead to next week, Charlotte Mayor Vile Lyles is expected to file for re-election on Wednesday. She's seeking her 5th term in office. So far, the only other candidate is Tigris Sidney Acute McDonald, who has run for the office in the past. Now turning to your national headlines, a federal judge just put a nationwide pause on President Donald Trump's executive order aiming to end birthright citizenship. The ruling came from a U.S. district judge in New Hampshire. The judge issued a preliminary injunction blocking the order and certifying a class action lawsuit. There's a 7-day stay to allow for appeal. The ruling puts the issue on a fast track to return to the Supreme Court.
Well, this morning, the Trump administration says undocumented immigrants are no longer eligible to enroll in Head Start. That's the federally funded preschool program. Officials say the change aims to protect taxpayer resources, but critics argue it's in all of our best interest if kids, no matter their background, have easy access to early education as well as food. Well, the State Department employees are bracing for mass layoffs. Dismissal notices expected to go out as soon as today. It's not clear yet how many employees could be impacted. It's part of President Trump's ongoing effort to downsize the federal government. Critics argue the cuts could lessen U.S. influence abroad and make it harder for them to carry out missions.
Live pictures from the White House right now, where President Trump will leave later this morning to head for Central Texas. NBC's Alice Barr has details on his trip and who he's expected to meet with.
1 week after the floodwaters came rushing in, President Trump traveling to Central Texas today for a first-hand look at the broken heart of a national tragedy. As an army of volunteers joins more than 2,000 first responders working to reunite victims with their families.
We'll stay until we get it done. Yeah. And we want them to have closure.
questions are mounting about whether more could have been done to get people out of harm's way. President Trump telling NBC News in a phone interview that while local officials loved the victims here and no one saw this coming, quote, in retrospect, after having seen this horrible event, I would imagine you'd put alarms up. Records from a 2016 Kerr County meeting show a former commissioner called the flood warning system pretty antiquated, and now new questions over how quickly local alerts went out.
Is there any way we can send a code red out to our Hunt residents asking them to find higher ground or stay home?
At the federal level, the White House adamant funding cuts did not hinder the National Weather Service in issuing warnings, while putting President Trump's calls to phase out FEMA on hold.
Well, FEMA is something we can talk about later, but right now they're busy working, so we'll leave it at that.
Amid so much devastation from Camp Mystic and all along the Guadalupe River, a local artist gathering photos for a wall of hope.
Thinking that there's a family suffering behind each of those pictures really brings home the feeling of honoring the people that were lost.
Looking to highlight the deep love in profound loss. In their visit to Kerrville, President Trump and the First Lady are set to join in a roundtable with first responders and local officials, as well as meeting with families devastated by the flooding. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
This morning, a North Carolina man and his family are still cut off from everyone, and I mean literally, as the recent flooding washed away the only road in and out of the property. Sarah Sorrows reports.
Our water is pretty amazing, but still, I can't fathom it.
What was once a narrow, beautiful pond in front of Philip Young's home is now a cliff with no safe way of getting across. A couple of friends are visiting him from Florida. What was supposed to be a one-night stay turned into a different adventure.
The water washed over the driveway and just pushed all the trees and everything, and it just uprooted. This is what happened. It was pretty shocking when I walked around here for the first time.
Although you'll see Young in our interview, it could only be done through the phone and our Zoom lens due to safety. Young says conditions on Wednesday looked normal at first. Then into the night, water started rushing in a way he's never seen before.
We had a lot of rain, obviously. This beautiful pond was fed by two creeks on either side of my house. And the water, it was like, I've never seen anything like it, the amount of water that's come through here. And it just overwhelmed my drain system and flowed over the driveway and just ended up collapsing this part of the dam. I never fathomed, or it was a little overwhelming to look at because I just really couldn't comprehend what I was looking at.
Just 30 minutes later, all the water was gone, but so was his road.
To the pond, I thought it looked like there was just debris in there. I didn't know that it had completely drained until I walked around here and saw what I saw here.
On the path, one lone duck looked pretty confused to see his home dried up and ruined. Young says in the 24 years he's lived there, the extent of the flood damage was something he was not expecting.
You could have a little washout. This never crossed my mind. Something as catastrophic as this is never, ever crossed. This reminds me of the pictures I saw up in the mountains.
Now, that same shock by the catastrophic damage left by flooding can be felt across the country.
The U.S. has been rocked by 4 1-in-1,000-year rainfall events in less than a week. To break it down, here's meteorologist Chris Mulcahy. Chris, explain what we're talking about here.
Well, first off, I don't think I remember this in my career ever happening. And then it wasn't a 500 or 1,000-year flood, but Boston was just overwhelmed. So we're seeing this all over. So what I'm going to break down is the 4 big ones that we saw just most recently. Of course, the biggest, let's start right here. Let's go to Kerr County, Texas. This is where we had that historic flooding. Here's just a look at not even the peak of this all. So this is the Guadalupe River, and look at the pure power and damage that we saw from this uprooted trees. Still, over 100 people are missing, and cars were tumbled. You saw a video of cars actually floating down the road. And the reason why this was so bad is the Guadalupe River also has the North Fork and the South Fork Guadalupe River. So the forks come together where this heavy rain was, whereas an estimated anywhere from 5 to 12 plus inches, as much as 19 was shown radar estimates in this area. And the saddest thing about Camp Mystic, as you've seen a few of the shots here, it's right along the South Fork of the Guadalupe River, which tend to actually flood more than the main rivers themselves. It was a quick riser where we saw the record crest right here around Hunt, Texas, up to over 37 feet, and it quickly rose over 20 feet within an hour and a half. So this is one of the most historic flooding events that you're ever going to see. Then we go next, a little bit closer to home. We're talking about a low-end tropical storm here in central North Carolina. Right here around Raleigh, this is the scene that we saw. Now, this was another once-in-a-thousand-year flood event. And what was so rare about this, and it's really a cause of concern, is that North Carolina had a very low-end tropical storm, but as we've seen change the climates, the amount of moisture in the air, it's leading to one of the most significant inland flooding events that we've ever had in North Carolina history. Now, I'm talking about some of the benchmarks were broken by Hurricane Fran. If you're familiar with North Carolina, Hurricane Fran is one of the worst that we've ever seen as far as flooding. It held multiple records until Florence crushed some of those back in 2018. So we saw more extreme inland flooding, and the National Hurricane Center has been really trying to hammer this home as of recent years, saying that, hey, it doesn't matter about the winds. This was technically tropical depression, Chantal, when it made its biggest impacts, where water was up to the roofs, where we saw estimates up to 8 to 12 inches of rain, and some of those 8 inches fell within 24 hours. So just absolutely staggering video here. Those low-end tropical storms, we got to watch out as they push inland. Things like this can happen. Now we're almost seeing a repeat of what we were talking about in Kerr County. And the crazy thing is I'm talking about things that have happened over the last week. Usually this is a year recap of the worst flooding we've seen across 2025. No, we're going to go to New Mexico. This is absolutely staggering. You probably recognize the video that you've probably seen this before. At one point, there was a house floating down the river. So where you're looking right here, this is Ruidoso, the village of Ruidoso, along the Rio Ruidoso. This is a raging river, and what's really tough as you cut through the village here is there's a lot of twists and bends. So once we saw a record amount of rain fall from this, and it was estimated up to a foot of rain fell in some parts, the river was just completely overwhelmed, where the Rio Ruidoso is about 30 miles long, and it completely flooded the village. We had a few deaths that also came from this. One 1,000-year event, because the nearest meter, it was in Hollywood, New Mexico. The previous record back in 2008 was 12 feet. It rose over 20 feet. And the power of that water is absolutely staggering, enough to carry a house downriver. We saw images like this from Helene, which was also a 1-in-1,000-year rain event. So the last one that we're going to mention here is Chicago. Chicago most recently, the reason why this was so bad, it was about 6 inches of rain that fell. Let's go up here. It was right in the downtown area of Chicago. Think about what Chicago is. It's a concrete jungle. That means that the drains were overwhelmed. You don't have the soil that absorbs the soil or the rain much better than other things like concrete, and everything was just really testing the infrastructure of Chicago. That's why this is such a big deal. 5 inches of rain actually fell in 90 minutes in one parts. There are some conflicting reports. Some refer to this as a 1-in-500-year flood, 1-in-1,000, but the highest totals I was actually seeing here was about 6.6 inches up to around 7. Again, this is just radar estimate that I'm pulling up. So now let's talk about what is a 1-in-1,000-year rain event? Well, that can't be true because we just had 4 this week. It's not actually 1,000 years. Now, it can be for a certain location. They might not see another event like that for 1,000 years. But the sad thing is we're seeing a lot more of these more frequently each and every year. We have several, it seems like, each every year over the last 5 years. But this simply means maybe for just a rainfall event or flood events along river basins, that if it's a 1-in-100-year flood, it's only a 1% chance likelihood that that could ever happen in that area. Whenever we say a 1-in-1,000-year event, that's only a 0.1% chance of happening. Now, the odds are still in your favor. You can win a bet that's of those odds. It just isn't likely that you're going to have it. So some areas might not see that again, but others are actually more in line for a repeat of a 1-in-1,000-year flood, like Asheville. They had theirs in 1916, and then they repeated it last year. And areas like what we saw in Kerr County, Texas, they repeated theirs nearly 40 years later. So some areas are more prone to it where rivers meet, the certain setup. So that's going to be the big deal there. Luckily for us, we're not talking about anything of that magnitude. It's just about some fog this morning and a chance for thunderstorms, but it just really shows us what can happen with some of these events. Zero visibility is the biggest issue right now that we have around Morganton. Looking at our more extended forecast going forward, this fog should be out of here over over the next couple of hours overall. 7-day forecast shows the lower to the mid 90s. There's a chance for rain each and every day, but I do want to make one more point about the flooding. Flooding doesn't happen instantly. Of course, the rain has to add up, but oftentimes it's previous rains that can be the precursor. Now, you can have a dry forecast, like for instance, New Mexico actually had wildfires recently. Well, that allowed for a much better rapid rise in the water. But for us in the near term, yeah, we have a chance for rain, but no extensive flood threats as of yet. But we do have major flooding through Raleigh still, major flooding also near Lumberton. So be careful, stay weather aware, and we'll of course keep you updated here on WCNC Plus once the weather changes. Let's see how traffic has changed with Majestic.
All right, good morning, everyone. I-77 here, not seeing any slowdowns whatsoever. Is a cloudy start to the morning. We will see some patchy fog here and there as you're heading out the door. Nothing significant for your morning commute. Some minor accidents that are continuing to be ongoing. There's a crash here at Trade Street near Wells Meadow Drive, seeing some yellow indicating those medium impacts. And then just off to the east of that, right now we have a lane that's blocked because of a crash on Tryon Street. So just allow for a few extra minutes. Again, not seeing any closures there. As we take a big picture perspective of what's going on, most of us are looking all right. You may encounter some of that patchy fog again in those areas shaded in orange, but as for now, we'll have another check on those area roadways coming up here shortly. Take it easy for your Friday morning commute.
And we're going to take a quick break, but keep it right here on WCNC Plus.
Well, good morning, everyone. 92 degrees is our high today, so back to the lower 90s. We were at 90 yesterday, so it's not a big difference. But we're dealing with some clouds right now. Some of us dealing with some really dense fog, especially you around Burke County and Morganton. That'll start to burn off over the next hour or two. High temperatures reaching the lower 90s by about the 3 to 5 o'clock hour. But hey, could feel as much as 98, 99 across the area. Keep that in mind. We're going to have a real feel that's pretty close to that 100-degree mark throughout the weekend, but mainly feeling like the upper 90s to 100 degrees each of the next few afternoons. That's Saturday, Sunday, heading into Monday before temperatures drop off into the lower 90s, feeling a little bit better, right? But hot, humid weather with daily storm chances look to be the norm. The lowest chance for rain actually in the near term is today and Sunday. After that, scattered rain is possible each afternoon and each evening. See what's going on with Majestic. Good morning.
Yeah, good Friday morning, everyone. 7:57. If you are getting ready to head out the door for your morning commute, you will encounter cloudy skies, a little bit of patchy to dense fog, but by the afternoon, at least we get that sunshine. York County, good morning to you. Good morning to everyone joining us there in South Carolina. No significant slowdowns along I-77 as for now. We are watching this one crash. It's on Trade Street near Wells Meadow Drive. In addition to that, another one off to the east. It's on North Tryon Street out there by I-485 where there is one lane that's currently blocked. We'll see you on WCNC Plus in just a couple of minutes.
Streaming live right now at 8 a.m. right here on WCNC Plus. I'm Ben Thompson.
And I'm Megan Bragg. And for Lisa, we start with some breaking news overnight. Everyone is okay after a car crashed into an apartment complex in West Charlotte. Take a look at this video from our crews at the scene. It happened on Romero-Burton Drive, right off West Boulevard. It's not clear yet why that car crashed, but thankfully no one was seriously injured.
We're also on top of breaking news in Southwest Charlotte, where one person has serious injuries after an early morning stabbing. Take a look at this map. It happened at Tyvola right off 77. We've reached out to police to find out what led up to that stabbing. And we're learning new details about a massive fire at a South Charlotte apartment complex. 6 people injured in that fire yesterday morning. In the last 30 minutes, we are now learning those victims range in age from just 3 years old all the way up to 60. Another victim was only 13. Investigators also tell us they do not believe arson is to blame in this case, although the official cause is still unclear. The Red Cross says at least 20 units were impacted. We'll have a much closer look at some of that damage coming up at 8:30.
Well, looking ahead, tens of thousands of people will be in the Queen City this weekend for the NAACP National Convention. It officially kicks off tomorrow in Uptown. WCNC Charlotte's Richard Devane is live in Uptown this morning with a preview of what people can expect. Good morning, Richard.
Good morning to you, Megan. Good morning, Ben. Good morning to everyone on this Friday out there watching us on the Plus. Basically, I was just inside. Now, folks can actually come by and pick up their badges and their stuff today. And there is a hub, as they call it, where there'll be a lot of activity going on later. But the convention does start in earnest tomorrow. Now, this is a big event, the 116th National Convention here in Charlotte. It's the first time that it's been back in the Queen City since 1996. And Megan, as you said, thousands of civil rights activists and others are expected to gather. This year's theme, the fierce urgency of now. That echoes Martin Luther King's Jr. iconic call for immediate action. Organizers anticipate an economic boost of around $17 million for Charlotte. They did $16.3 million the last couple years in both Las Vegas as well as Boston. So they hope to do $17 million here in the Queen City. Now, the convention's return to Charlotte is both symbolic, they say, as well as strategic. In a historic move, NAACP President and CEO Derek Johnson announced that the organization will not invite President Donald Trump. Now, this breaks a continuous tradition that dates back throughout the history of the conventions. Johnson criticized Trump's policies and actions, including his executive orders, military deployments in domestic communities, and civil rights rollbacks, they say, which directly oppose what the NCAA is all about. NAACP, I should say, is all about.
Look, the NAACP has 116 years of civil rights advocacy and activism. Anything that you've accomplished in this country was done because of the NAACP's work. When you look at the unions, when you look at workers, when you look at women, when you look at black people and people of color, immigrants, all of it is because of the work that the NAACP did and continues to do.
It's very important that we come together, mobilize, and organize with all the detrimental things that have happened within the political spectrum.
And of course, as you can see, this place will be a bevy of activity all around Uptown at the Convention Center. This event will run from starting tomorrow, really, all the way until Wednesday. We're right here in Uptown. Guys, we'll send it back to you.
Now, Richard, I know the president won't be there, but any word on other special guests or surprises that could be coming?
I don't know all the surprises, but I know a number of guests will be here. They say they have a lot of folks that they plan on having come to the convention this weekend. They say that there are going to be a number of panels and things of that nature. We should see 1 or 2 candidates or folks or I should say people who are known in certain political realms, as well as some entertainment. There will be some celebrities coming here throughout the time that this event takes place, and a couple surprise performances, we've been told. Don't want to reveal everything we know, but it should be a good event for folks to come out and enjoy.
All right, Richard, thank you so much.
All right, 8:04 right now. Turning back to your forecast with Chris Mulcahy. Chris, people ready for this Friday and the weekend?
All right, let's do it. Let's get rid of this fog first. Now, it's actively now during the 8 o'clock hour through the next 2 hours. Those who have really dense fog. You're going to be getting rid of it. And then after that, we're waiting for these lower clouds to clear and we'll see some sunshine as early as 10 for some of us, but then others will be waiting until the early afternoon between about noon and 1. We have a quarter-mile of visibility right now around Morganton, but we also had a quarter-mile 2 hours ago around Statesville. That's vastly improved. So we are now starting to see that we're turning the corner for this fog. Again, by about the 9 o'clock hour, I think most of us will be clear on the ground, but it'll still look like this as we have over in Lylesville. So literally, fog is a cloud. And once it rises up, it's technically a stratus cloud. And then eventually as it rises up, it'll start to dissipate, it burns off, and then the sunshine takes over. So there's blue sky above here, I promise you. Ha-ha, check it out. That's the advantage of our Dallas camera that is about 1,500 feet up. So that means the layer of the clouds right at the surface, and those are the ones that do a really good job about blocking the sunshine and not motivating your morning. Yeah, we have those. So we'll start to see a transition here soonish. Some brighter spots coming over the next few hours. Still 73 degrees in Charlotte. That's also another thing. Temperature's not moving too much because we don't have the sunshine to help aid our ramp up. But then once the sun comes up, you can jump quickly 5+ degrees. 69 degrees around Morganton, 68 around Boone. We have our dogs of the day, Freya and Odin. Let's do this. We have Casey, the proud owner, for your dog walking forecast. 73 degrees is the starting point, and then we'll quickly be in the 80s once that sunshine starts to evolve after 10 o'clock. And then by the afternoon, we're reaching around 90 degrees. I do this each and every day over on our WCNC channel, and we play this music. Why wouldn't you want to be a part of this? And guess what? You can also have this opportunity, and I'll feature it sometime here on WCNC Plus. Maybe we'll find a spot for that. Just scan this and send me your pet. I can't wait. We also have our director, Cody, who's our DJ. Thanks a lot for the music, Cody. Let's move on with the rest of our forecast. We have our high temperatures up in the mountains, 80 degrees around Boone, 77 around Blowing Rock. Actually, it's Robert. Robert's doing it today. Robert, also another great DJ. We always got the jams going for our directors back there. And 76 degrees right here around Banner Elk, and then 90 degrees in Morganton and 91 for you around Maiden. 92 in Charlotte, and then boom, we have about the 94s in Chesterfield and Rockingham. This is actually still cooler than where we were not too long ago. We were peaking at back-to-back days about 98 degrees on Monday and Tuesday, but our average highs have adjusted themselves. 91 degrees is the hottest average high that we have here around Charlotte. It technically gets up to, I think, 91.4, and that's close to about July 16th. And then by about July 22nd, we drop down to 90, and then it's a very slow decline. Feel more like the mid-80s, though, once we get a little bit closer to September. Here's your weekend forecast. This is as July as a July weekend can be. 93, 94, it's hot, it's humid with a chance for storms. But if I were to pick the day that I think has the best chance for storms, it's going to be this coming Saturday. So let's get the information I know that you're here for. What is my weekend going to look like? Well, great question. That's why I'm here. We have some scattered showers and storms up in the mountains and the foothills. By about 3 o'clock to close to 6, we're starting to see showers push a little bit closer to Charlotte. But there's a good chance that a lot of these will fade out. So this isn't really a high confidence forecast. If you're watching from Morganton, you have a much better chance for rain compared to the rest of the area. I'm not discounting this. Early evening, I think, is your best shot, but it's going to be fairly isolated. Look at the difference for Saturday, though. You're good up until noon. If you have any plans, if you do it before noon, I don't think you have anything to worry about. 1 o'clock, things start to change. By 3 o'clock, we have some activity here on the map, and it's pretty scattered. It's all over the place. This time, it's a little bit close to the I-77 corridor, and you have things twisting and bending. Here, watch the center real quick. Watch. You see a quick little wave. All of a sudden, storms quickly move into each other. Those are outflow boundaries. So we're talking about conflicting storms, and if they mesh and merge into one, that can also lead to a prolonged heavy downpour. So these aren't just quick guys. Those are more so the forecast for today, and then again on Sunday, and then that could linger a little bit later on to the evening. We should be done by about 9 to 10 for your Sunday. These start a little bit earlier, but notice that it's a little bit further east. Better chances for storms here from Monroe to Albemarle over to Wadesboro, but still, Charlotte could be impacted. And then heading into the early to mid-evening, they're getting out of here, and then we rinse and repeat the same forecast going forward. We just have an active zone. We got some nearby troughs that lifts up the heat and humidity. So, c'est la vie. We have 92 degrees today, gaining a degree each and every day up to 95 on Monday before we're back to a nice cool 90-degree point. On Wednesday and Thursday, more clouds and some rain, but hopefully that rain clears out for the Wednesday edition of Charlotte FC. Nice to see them in town 2 days over the next 7. Let's get over to Majestic, see what's going on. You going to that soccer game?
I haven't been yet. Maybe I should go this Saturday. I think it'd be a lot of fun. I heard it's a lot of fun. Hey, if you're heading out the door this morning, a couple things I want to let you know about. I want to show you a picture that we just received. It's on Trade Street and Sycamore Street. All westbound lanes are currently blocked. You can see multiple police officers are there on scene, as well as a couple of ambulances currently. I want to show you as we switch it on over to our live traffic map, just to give you perspective as to where this is at. There it is, Sycamore Street at Trade Street near I-77. It's right before you actually get to it. So that's the big ongoing problem right now. We actually have crews who are heading to this scene to see exactly what's going on. And as soon as we get more information, we'll be sure to let you know. But again, just want to show you exactly the picture that we just got. Trade Street and Sycamore Street, where all westbound lanes are currently blocked. As you can see, lots of emergency responders are there on scene this morning. In addition to that, we have another blocked road. It's on Salome Church Road at Tryon Street, seeing some yellow, just meaning that you may have a couple of minutes for your slowdown as roads are being impacted by a medium amount. Otherwise, I-77, if you're coming inbound from York County, good morning to you. You got your typical slow and go conditions. Not seeing any accidents, just more people up and at them starting their day. Drive times this morning for your Friday morning commute, they look all right. 21 minutes if you're coming in from Matthews and about 26 if you're coming in from Belmont. Ben.
Thanks. The CMPD officer is recovering this morning after a serious crash in Ballantyne. Take a look at some of this video. It happened near Johnson Road and Brixham Hill Avenue there in the middle of Ballantyne yesterday. You can see the police car heavily damaged. The front part of it just ripped off. We're still working to find out what led up to the crash and how that officer is doing this morning. Well, Cornelius police officer suspended without pay this morning after an interaction involving a dog inside a hot car. We first told you about this story when it happened about a month ago. We told you how a woman says she broke into the car while the dog was inside because there was no air conditioning and the windows were barely cracked. She tells us the officer, though, arrived and started yelling at her, saying she had no right to be in somebody else's car. She thought this whole time she was doing a good thing. Now police tell us that officer is suspended, and the chief also issued an apology to the community.
New this morning, CMS is pleading with federal officials over major funding issues. The Department of Education is withholding over $6 billion in federal grants nationwide, while it reviews whether they, quote, align with President Trump's priorities. For CMS, that means the district could lose $12 million in funding. In response, the board sent a letter to the Department of Education asking them to reverse the decision. As we prepare for more rain chances later this week, we're getting a better look at the damage from recent strong storms.
WCNC Charlotte's Siobhan Riley spoke with folks in the Oakhurst community who say they've been dealing with water issues now for more than a decade.
This is where it is. It's coming into our house.
A Charlotte woman who lives in the Oakhurst community who wants to remain anonymous sent me this video capturing the last time she experienced severe flooding in her backyard, June 12th. She says it happened so quickly. She says this is what her backyard looked like 4 minutes prior.
It was up into here. I mean, you look at that creek. It's that big and that deep. That was, 8 foot deep probably.
Byron York, who also lives in the neighborhood, says the recent flooding is the worst he's seen in the 10 years he's lived here.
Neighbors say at one point the water got so high that it came over this bridge. Their biggest fear is finding snakes in their yard, and they want the city to take action.
It came up in a matter of less than an hour and was going over the bridge in the back and came up the furthest into my yard I've ever seen it.
After a resident reached out to the city sent her this statement. It reads in part, the storm occurring June 12th exceeded the threshold for which the city of Charlotte designed systems for. However, the channel behind your home is currently in the city's ranking system for further evaluation due to a previous request.
It's frustrating. I have to clean up the yard or I have to pay my yard guy to clean it up.
In Charlotte, Siobhan Riley, WCNC Charlotte.
Several parks across North Carolina are closed this morning due to damage from Tropical Storm Chantel. Those include Jordan Lake, Falls Lake, and several others on your screen. If you're heading out this weekend, make sure you check websites or call ahead for the most up-to-date information. And if you did have an upcoming camping reservation and it's affected, expect to be contacted about alternative campsites or a possible full refund. Well, good news for people in Mebane this morning. The city says people are now able to shower again amid ongoing water shortage. Businesses are also able to reopen, but only with 60% of their normal staffing. For now, the city has set up bottled water distribution sites because there are so many people trying to help loved ones get by.
I was getting water for my mom-in-law and stuff. Yeah, gotta look out the old people.
I got a young son at the house, and I'm working 12 hours, so it was very helpful. And I'm gonna try the grocery store as soon as I leave here to see if they have any water as well.
We're gonna make it.
All the restrictions are loosened for now. The city warns they could reinstate tougher restrictions at any moment. Now to the latest in the flood recovery in Texas. A community gathering to pray overnight and remember 4 Southeast Texans killed in last week's deadly flooding. It's one of many services held in the last few days to honor the victims. It's now been 1 week since the Texas Hill Country changed forever. This morning, the death toll sits at 121, with 173 people still missing. 161 of those are in Kerr County. The flooding stemmed from slow-moving storms that overwhelmed places like the Guadalupe River. And Ben, this is not the first time that area has seen this type of flooding.
It is not, Megan. Take a look here behind me. You can see the time lapse of the Guadalupe River and how quickly it actually went up. They say about 26 feet in just 45 minutes. But take a look at this. I mean, nearly 40 years ago, the river rose 3 feet higher in that same amount of time, killing 10 people. As a new tragedy now unfolds, Allie Spilliards sits down with one of the survivors from that 1987 Texas flood.
They hurried us up early that morning, maybe 6 or so, and said we needed to hurry up and get out of the camp, that there was some flooding in the area.
It's been 38 years and still Tara Chatham vividly remembers.
Our bus stalled out, and then the van that was behind us stalled out.
At 14 years old, she says she'd accepted death.
But all of a sudden, we were all holding hands, and a big wall of water just came and sent us all downriver.
On July 17, 1987, Chatham and her brother Scott were among the more than 40 students from Bulch Springs Christian Academy, forced to cling to trees in the swollen Guadalupe. Scott helped pull friends higher. Despite a battle with leukemia he'd soon lose. Chatham was swept further downstream.
I mean, it came so fast, though. The water was just rushing so fast.
10 students died that day. For years, Chatham did her best to bury the grief. On a cloudy day at the Bulch Springs Christian Academy, she says she has no memory of sitting down with NBC5 in 1988.
About when I was in the river and when I was going under and everything.
Then Friday, it all resurfaced as history repeated itself. Once again, summer camp children among the dead and missing.
All of the pictures of the running river and the trees and the helicopters saving, it brought up a lot of the emotions.
While many can't begin to imagine the grief felt by those left behind, Chatham's walked in their shoes.
This is Sergeant Seal, so he's the one that risked his life, and he got out on the skids of the helicopter, and he's a state trooper, and pulled me up by the hair of my head and my shorts.
Having survived her own nightmare, she urges those just beginning theirs to lean on their faith.
That we have hope that we will see them again, and God will be with us and, carry us through.
And here's the thing, we know the generosity of the folks here in the Charlotte area, and we know so many of you have been wondering, how can I help? Well, take a look at your screen. This is how you can help. We're working with our parent company, Tegna, to create the Texas Relief Fund to support some of those communities impacted by this flooding. You can scan that QR code to donate. Every single dollar, every single one of it is going to go directly to those in need.
Yeah, and Chris, it's absolutely been devastating over there. And you got some statistics for us.
Yeah, we're going to compare the 1987 event that you were just learning about compared to what we just saw. And the sad thing about weather is history tends to repeat itself. And coming up over the next 30 minutes, we're actually going to break it down a little bit more what a 1 in a 1,000-year flood event looks like, what it is. This one for sure was one of them. And we're also going to break down the multiple 1 in a 1,000-year flood events that we had just this week alone. So let's compare the two events. Both of them happened in July, but the 1987 event happened in Comfort, Texas, but not too far down the road is Hunt, Texas. That's where the most recent event happened, and it was widespread also over to Kerrville, but this is what we're really focusing in on, right along the Guadalupe River, which actually has a north and a south fork. So the reason why this area, including Comfort and Hunt, floods so much when you have rains like these is that you have technically 3 rivers converging into one. 2 are small, and then of course the main Guadalupe River, but then if you put all the rain at once, it's like a traffic jam, and that leads to some historic flooding. So at the time, this was the second highest crest at 28.4 feet, rapidly rising water, 5 to 10 inches of rain fell. Now there was more rain that fell from this event that happened this year around Hunt, Texas and over at Camp Mystic, but 37.52 feet was the crest. It was significantly higher than the highest crest that we had in 1987. And the biggest difference here, there were 10 fatalities, those 10 teenagers, and they were trying to get away, and 100+ fatalities for this event. And this number is going to continue to grow. We mentioned that it was 121 for the most recent count. But here's the big difference that I'm noticing. If this had happened, say, after sunrise, this would not have been the big story. It still would be huge, but we wouldn't be talking about 100+ fatalities. People would have seen that the rising water was coming. I think a lot of people woke up when it was far too late because it's only about a 5-minute walk from Camp Mystic to higher ground from where the young girls' cabins were. So it's absolutely devastating seeing data like this, but I'm going to actually use this as an opportunity to make sure that you have emergency alerts on your phone. I didn't even know that you could turn these off, but don't do it. If you have an iPhone, go to Settings, Notifications, and click on Government Alerts. You want to be able to receive those emergency alerts, gives you Amber Alerts as well, but for Samsung, it's going to navigate to your Settings, Safety Emergency, and then Wireless Emergency Alerts. You're not going to be notified for everything, by the way. You're only going to be notified for the most life-threatening situations. The last considerable flash flood warning that we had here in the Carolinas was what just happened, where 4 people died in central North Carolina from what most recent tropical storm. And then a flash flood emergency, you want to be warned for that. That's what happened in Texas. That's what happened over in New Mexico. You're also going to be warned for a destructive severe thunderstorm warning. At that point, winds are producing 80-mile-per-hour winds and potentially baseball-sized hail. And of course, you're going to be warned for a tornado warning or a tornado emergency. So a devastating situation across multiple states. And the sad thing is, this is a continual trend. We'll continue to see more flooding in the future, but hey, we're going to be here for you on WCNC+. Majestic's also here for you for your morning commute, letting you know if you have any issues that you might be heading into.
All right, good morning, everyone. A few things you'll want to know as you're heading out the door is that most of us were seeing fine conditions, mainly all green, but still watching right there where we have had reports of an injury accident. It was on Sycamore Street and Trade Street right near I-77. You can see where areas are shaded in that yellow right there, still following that ongoing watch spot there. And then another lane is currently blocked there on Tryon Street, so make sure you're being careful. Actually, looks like it just went away, so we're actually seeing some improvements out that direction. Otherwise, as we zoom it on out, you can see big picture looking pretty good right along the Uptown area, Independence, 85, I-77, a couple of stop-and-go spots on I-77 as people are heading inbound, but again, nothing too out of the ordinary. In addition to that, watch for some spots where you may encounter a little bit of patchy, even dense fog that might reduce down visibility at times. That's what I'm looking at for now. I'll give you another traffic update coming up here shortly.
Hi, this is Larry Sprinkle. What to do this weekend? There is a lot going on. One of the most interesting is this right here. What to do? It's all from our friends at Lego. Build, race, explore events. The race is on, and it's all about Lego. And it's over at Symphony Park at South Park Mall. It's free, by the way, 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. every day. And that does include today, tomorrow, and again on Sunday. Best suited for families, but it's open to everyone. Kids 6 to 12, perfect for that. But it's something you don't want to miss, especially if you love Legos. It's all at Symphony Park at South Park Mall, and it's free, and that's what's happening this weekend. I'm Larry Sprinkle.
All right, live pictures right now over uptown on a foggy, cloudy Friday morning right now. Time now 8:24. Keep it right here. Throughout the day right here on WCNC Plus for the latest news, weather, and traffic. We're back in just a minute.
Good morning, everybody. Not the prettiest start to your day, right? Well, it's just like yesterday. It was cloudy, and then all of a sudden, poof, there's the sun. And we are expecting those clouds to start to break up slowly between 10 and 1. Just depends where you are. Highs in the lower 90s this time, about 2 degrees warmer than yesterday. Mix of cloud and sunshine for the afternoon. Will feel like the upper 90s, close to 100 at times, with our highs in the lower 90s. And then we are also dealing with a chance for a pop-up shower or thunderstorm. However, I think today is one of the least likely chances you see storms around Charlotte. So yet again, another dry-ish day. Best chance for storms this weekend, this Saturday. Check it out. 40% coverage, so scattered thunderstorms through the afternoon. Sunday, I think it's more so east of I-77, but still a chance for storms. If you're doing anything in the morning, you're good to go. Just might be a little bit cloudy from place to place. Getting a degree warmer each day, Friday through Monday. After that, just around 90 with a daily chance for thunderstorms. But welcome to July, and welcome to your traffic report with Majestic.
Good Friday morning, everyone. Take a look at your TV screen. Still following this, Trade Street and Sycamore Street. That's where all westbound lanes are currently blocked. You can see a handful of police officers are there. Emergency responders are there, putting things into perspective. Switching it on over to our map, you can see exactly where it's at. Again, Sycamore Street at Trade Street. It's near I-77, so you'll want to avoid that area. We'll continue to follow that for you very carefully on WCNC Plus, so make sure to join us there. Another crash had just popped up. It's on Vernon Drive at Wendover Road. Make sure you take it easy for your Friday morning commute.
Good morning, and thanks for joining us live on WCNC Plus at 8:30. I'm Megan Bragg, in for Lisa.
And I'm Ben Thompson. Just in the last hour, we're learning new details about the victims injured in this massive fire at a South Charlotte apartment complex.
Yeah, we're also learning more about what may have caused it. WCNC Charlotte's Destiny Richards is live for us this morning. And Destiny, the age of these victims is heartbreaking.
Yeah, that's right. We did learn that of the 6 people injured, there were 4 adults and 2 children. One of them as young as 3 years old. So this is what we're looking at this morning. We did learn from fire officials that this is an accidental fire that started yesterday. So we do finally know the cause of the fire. But obviously, this is still a very trying time for people, not just the folks that were inside of this unit, but all the people who have now been displaced. Now, the Charlotte Fire Department says the calls started coming in about flames and thick black smoke just before 5:30 yesterday morning. We're told 11 people were inside the unit that burned, but 6 were injured, 4 adults with ages ranging from 19 to 60 years old, and 2 minors, a 13-year-old and a 3-year-old. They were all hospitalized for serious burns. The fire woke up residents in the middle of the night, many of them having to run out with just the clothes on their back. Take a listen.
Well, I was sleeping and then I just heard like a loud sound, like an explosion. I came outside to the porch and I just saw a bunch of smoke.
And it's devastating to just think about the cost of living too, and having to replace all your stuff, and on top of that, your medical bills, and now you don't have a secure place to stay.
So right now we know that at least 20 units have been impacted, and you can see the sign behind me. The building is deemed unsafe according to the Charlotte Fire Department. Again, we know now that the cause of this fire is accidental. We know 11 people were in this unit. We only know about the 6 who were injured. Again, 4 adults and 2 minors. So again, they were all hospitalized yesterday with serious burns. We also know that of the people impacted by this fire, the Red Cross is helping them find somewhere to stay. Ben, Megan.
And Destiny, it sounds like there might be some spare apartments there at the complex where some of these people might be able to go.
Right. Yeah, we heard from obviously residents yesterday who were coming back to salvage what they could, and they said that Red Cross and the apartment were hopefully going to help them get into some vacant units that were spare and available. But I forgot to mention, we did earlier speak also with a man who just came back to his apartment. It only received minimal damage. There was just some smoke on the ceiling. He said of his smoke alarm that it did go off. It was a little bit delayed though, because he said whenever he came out of the apartment, he's in the back left part of this unit. He said when he came out, the flames were already engulfing the stairs, and these were the only stairs that he could come down. But it was just, it was well enough that he was fine to just come down the stairs safely. You can see that the stairs aren't completely burned up, so he was able to do that. But obviously he said there are a lot of people who have lost everything. So he hasn't heard about any next steps for his apartment. He doesn't believe that he's going to have to relocate. He's really kind of in the limbo. But of the other residents we heard from, they are going to have to find next steps. And it looks like the Red Cross in the apartment is going to be stepping up. But hopefully we'll hear about some more information about what is going to happen moving forward.
Destiny Richards, reporting live for us. Destiny, thank you. All right, turning now back to your forecast for this Friday and the weekend with Chris Mulcahy.
It's always an important forecast, and I hope we don't blow it. We are looking at a chance for storms, but I don't think it's going to be really a big widespread, oh, everyone sees storms, oh, the afternoon is canceled. No, I think it's going to be really that isolated, scattered nature. And this morning, not the most motivational start to your Friday. It is super cloudy, thick clouds going on here, and you are also going to have a nice break in the clouds with some of that fog. But look at that fog that we have over in Morganton. You don't have a value that popped up here, but that red representing down below a mile visibility. That's really the most problematic area. Still a little bit lower cloud deck close to Gastonia and Rock Hill. I think this is vastly going to change over the next hour or so. So by about 9:30, most of it is going to be a comfortable visibility for us, but still a thicker cloud cover below. But I've already seen signs it's lifting. Temperatures have haven't moved much over the last couple hours. It's usually about this hour that we're starting to ramp things up. We will see the turn of our temperatures in the upward direction towards the 80s pretty quickly once we get that sunshine, but it's just a patient game trying to get there. 69 Morganton, 70 for you in Hickory. By the time you get to about 2 o'clock, I think you're seeing partly cloudy skies. It's going to be gorgeous, but 89 will feel like 96 degrees and 81 will feel like 86 by 11 a.m. Realistically, I think it's really after 10 that we really start to see the break. Some of us might have to wait until about noon to 1 until you really see that sunshine. Highs today, 9 to 2, not too bad, about 2 degrees warmer than what we had yesterday. 80 for you in Boone and then 90 in Morganton. We have more excessive rain impacts for today. It's a very low end risk, but this doesn't look to be anything major. Our severe risks are pretty much null and void for today. And some of our models are trending that most of us don't really see storms at all. Check it out. You have a little bit extra energy over here off towards the west. Looks like around Asheville and western North Carolina is the hot zone, down to Greenville, South Carolina as well. We'll have a chance for some spotty showers and storms, especially if you live in the foothills, but not much actually makes it to the Charlotte area. So this model's depicting that. I think the only thing that could break this is maybe 1 or 2 storms. Literally, that's it around the Charlotte area to conclude the afternoon and begin the evening. But right now, things are trending in a drier direction. For your Saturday, things are a little bit different. It's already more active by about 2 o'clock, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's talk about the weekend. Weekend forecast is going to be a high of 93 on Saturday, 94 on Sunday, but Saturday has the better chance for rain. Sunday, I'm not saying that you won't see rain. I think it's just a little bit further east of Charlotte, but our peak heat index during this time, we're not turning down the mugginess at all. Our dew points are still thriving and jiving. 100 to 101 is going to be our max real feel through the weekend, heading into Monday, maybe down to 99, but it's not really wavering too much. So here's your Futurecast for your Saturday. Check it out. I think you could see a storm as early as noon, truly on Saturday to the west. But Charlotte, notice how we see more of an active zone close to 2, but I think it's really 2 to 4 that we see some activity that's starting to get a little bit close to the I-85 corridor in some of our South Carolina counties. Certainly most active here initially around Morganton, Burke County, and Cleveland County. And then by about 4 to 6 o'clock, it's at that point that I think you have the peak, the most scattered rain across the area. So some of us are going to be impacted by these. There's also a slight chance that we have a few more showers deeper into the evening compared to the next couple of days. Then heading into your Sunday, one more look. I think we start off a little bit sunnier, but by 1 o'clock, we're seeing some isolated storms. This is the earliest I'm seeing it on the map, but notice these are actually a little bit further east. We have a trough that's driving things up over here, so it's better for an active zone from Albemarle, Monroe to Wadesboro and Rockingham. Not saying Charlotte won't see that, but I think if you do see a storm around Charlotte, it's a better chance early to mid-afternoon. There still could be an isolated guy, as this one's showing. By late day, that's just the outflow pushing backwards with this. But the further west you go of I-77, not as much rain on Sunday. So today and tomorrow, in sum, are your best chances of staying dry over the next week, because things change by about your Tuesday into Wednesday. Notice all this red? That's tropical moisture. That's PWATS. That's the higher index for the amount of precipitable water in the atmosphere, aka better chance for some heavier rain. So any thunderstorm that happens along the Carolina coast, we could have some hefty rain rates. That's not good, because I was just looking at some of the river levels. The Lumberton River right now, we are looking at a high level that is at 18 feet. That is major flood stage, moderate to major, kind of like right on the cusp. That's still one of the highest levels, top 20 that we've seen. Nothing compared to what happened during Florence there. That was an absolute mess. But since we already have some really higher river levels, especially across central North Carolina, that is going to be problematic, because sometimes drought can feed drought, but flooding can lead to more flooding just because the water levels are already so high. So with those higher values, we are going to see probably an elevated excessive rain threat, especially the middle of next week, where our rain chances are the highest. Okay, that was a lot to talk about. Thanks for listening. 92 degrees to 95 over the next 4. It gets 1 degree warmer each day, lower 90s by the middle of the week. And again, I will reiterate myself, best chances for rain this week, I think, are going to be Saturday in the middle of next week. Friday and Sunday, your best hope to to be rain and storm free, which Charlotte's done a really good job of doing recently. Majestic, take it away. Talk about traffic. What are we doing?
All right, good Friday morning, everyone. Want to give you some updates on what's been ongoing there on Trade Street. Now, here's the picture that we've been talking about now for quite some time. Our crews went to the scene. They talked to CMPD. They were told that they were pursuing a suspect there on Trade. The suspect then turned onto Sycamore, crashed into a tree. The suspect right now is in custody, no injuries, but since then, this scene has been cleared and those police officers are now gone. But that's what we're really focusing on. And now that's the biggest scene that is now cleared. Shouldn't have any more backups. Meanwhile, let's bring it on home because we are still seeing a little bit of yellow throughout some of that area where we did have that very active scene, but I do suspect that we'll continue to see a lot of clearing over the next few minutes. Another crash right here. Remember, it's on Vernon Drive at Windover Road. I'm seeing some yellow there, meaning that cars are just moving a little slower than they typically should for this time of the day. As we zoom it on out, though, you can see otherwise not seeing anything too problematic out there. If you're in South Carolina, good morning too. If you're taking I-77 inbound, I'm not seeing anything really slowing you down coming in from Rock Hill or Fort Mill. You look good. I-85 there out towards Belmont and Gastonia looks fantastic if you're coming inbound or outbound. I-77 from Huntersville to Cornelius looks great as well. If things change, I'll be sure to let you know. Megan.
All right, thanks, Majestic. A man is waking up behind bars this morning after he allegedly tried to kidnap a woman for the second time. Authorities arrested Logan Calloway in South Carolina Wednesday. He's accused of assaulting his ex-girlfriend and taking her from her home. It comes after he was arrested for kidnapping the same victim in Matthews just last month. He was released on a bond 1 week later.
We would consider Logan a very dangerous offender. Obviously, within a 30 to 60 day time frame, he has accrued numerous felony charges, including multiple counts of kidnapping the same victim while there's an active domestic violence protection order against him from this victim. So he is clearly not obeying or abiding by the court's orders.
Authorities tell us the victim was with Calloway when they arrested him. She was taken to a nearby hospital for evaluation.
Approaching 8:42 right now on WCNC Plus, and new updates this morning in the Shanquella Robinson case. We're now learning one of the women accused is claiming self-defense in the case. In a new filing, Imani Green says any altercation with Robinson was started by Robinson herself. That filing also says Robinson did not tell anybody about possible medical issues she was facing. Shanquella's family suing the 6 people who traveled with her on that fatal trip to Mexico. We're learning more new charges in that Kings Mountain immigration raid last month. On June 25th, ICE agents detained 30 people at Buckeye Fire Equipment. Overnight, we got new documents that show several of those people are now accused of re-entering the country illegally. This morning, it's not clear if anybody at the company is going to face any charges.
Looking ahead to next week, Charlotte Mayor Vile Isles is expected to file for re-election on Wednesday. She's seeking her 5th term in office. So far, the only other candidate is Tigress Sidney Acute McDonald, who has run for the office in the past. Turning now to your national headlines, a federal judge just put a nationwide pause on President Donald Trump's executive order aiming to end birthright citizenship. The ruling came from a U.S. district judge in New Hampshire. The judge issued a preliminary injunction blocking the order and certifying a class action lawsuit. There's a 7-day stay to allow for appeal. The ruling puts the issue on a fast track to return to the Supreme Court.
This morning, the Trump administration says undocumented immigrants are no longer eligible to enroll in Head Start. That's the federally funded preschool program. Officials say the change aims to protect taxpayer resources. Critics argue it's in everybody's best interest if kids, no matter their background, have access to early education as well as food. State Department employees bracing for mass layoffs. Notices going out as soon as today. It's not clear yet how many employees could be impacted, but it's part of the president's ongoing effort to downsize the federal government. Critics argue the cuts could lessen U.S. influence abroad, which means bigger influence for other countries, say like China or Russia. Could also make it harder for State Department employees to carry out some of their missions.
Live pictures from the White House right now, where President Trump will leave later this morning to head for Central Texas. NBC's Alice Barr has details on his trip and who he's expected to meet with.
1 week after the floodwaters came rushing in, President Trump traveling to Central Texas today for a first-hand look at the broken heart of a national tragedy.
as an army of volunteers joins more than 2,000 first responders working to reunite victims with their families.
We'll stay until we get it done. Yeah. And we want them to have closure.
Questions are mounting about whether more could have been done to get people out of harm's way. President Trump telling NBC News in a phone interview that while local officials loved the victims here and no one saw this coming, quote, in retrospect, after having seen this horrible event, I would imagine you'd put alarms up. Records from a 2016 Kerr County meeting show a former commissioner called the flood warning system pretty antiquated. And now new questions over how quickly local alerts went out.
Is there any way we can send a code red out to our Hunt residents asking them to find higher ground or stay home?
At the federal level, the White House adamant funding cuts did not hinder the National Weather Service in issuing warnings, while putting President Trump's calls to phase out FEMA on hold.
Well, FEMA is something we can talk about later, but right now they're busy working, so we'll leave it at that.
Amid so much devastation from Camp Mystic and all along the Guadalupe River, a local artist gathering photos for a wall of hope.
Thinking that there's a family suffering behind each of those pictures really brings home the feeling of honoring the people that were lost.
Looking to highlight the deep love in profound loss. In their visit to Kerrville, President Trump and the First Lady are set to join in a roundtable with first responders and local officials, as well as meeting with families devastated by the flooding. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
This morning, a North Carolina man and his family are still cut off from everyone, and I mean that literally, as the recent flooding washed away the only road in and out of their property. Sierra Sowers reports.
Our water is pretty amazing, but still, I can't fathom it.
What was once a narrow, beautiful pond in front of Philip Young's home is now a cliff with no safe way of getting across. A couple of friends are visiting him from Florida. What was supposed to be a one-night stay turned into a different adventure.
The water washed over the driveway and just pushed all the trees and everything, and it just uprooted. This is what happened. So it was pretty shocking when I walked around here for the first time.
Although you'll see Young in our interview, it could only be done through the phone and our Zoom lens due to safety. Young says conditions on Wednesday looked normal at first. Then into the night, water started rushing in a way he's never seen before.
We had a lot of rain, obviously. This beautiful pond was fed by two creeks on either side of my house. And the water, it was like, I've never seen anything like it, the amount of water that's come through here. And it just overwhelmed my drain system and flowed over the driveway and just ended up collapsing this part of the dam. I never fathomed, or it was a little overwhelming to look at because I just really couldn't comprehend what I was looking at.
Just 30 minutes later, all the water was gone, but so was his road.
To the pond, I thought it looked like there was just debris in there. I didn't know that it had completely drained until I walked around here and saw what I saw here.
On the path, one lone duck looked pretty confused to see his home dried up and ruined. Young says in the 24 years he's lived there, the extent of the flood damage was something he was not expecting.
You could have a little washout. This never crossed my mind. Something as catastrophic as this is never, ever crossed. This reminds me of the pictures I saw up in the mountains.
Sierra Sowers reporting there, and that same shock by the catastrophic damage left by flooding can be felt across the country.
That's right. The U.S. has been rocked by 4 1-in-1,000-year rainfall events in less than a week. Chris joins us right now to explain. Chris.
I don't think I've heard that sentence in all of my career of 15 years. 4 1-in-1,000-year rainfall events. That is crazy to have in 1 week, because there's events like Matthew, as we know here in the Carolinas, Florence. Those were 1-in-1,000-year rainfall events. Helene. But to have me surrounded here, that would happen from July 3rd through the middle of this week, this is insane. But let's start with the biggest one. This is Kerr County, Texas, zooming in here. So this is the after flooding. You're not even seeing the worst of the video, because at one point cars were being just carried downstream. So this is right around the Guadalupe River. But here's the problem that happened here. Rain showers converged. It was the moisture from Barry that led to this, that I saw pieces of houses. You saw just an absolute devastation where You usually do not hear of a death toll like this from just a rain event. Absolutely staggering to see that. Where the North Fork, the South Fork River, the Guadalupe River all meet here. Saw a range about 5 to 12 inches across the area, just leading to one of the worst events that you're probably ever going to see. And there's still so many people missing. This will be an ongoing story. So that's number one. But the crazy thing was, within just a day, we had a very low-end tropical storm. These are usually, hey, Chantal was quickly in and out. It only lasted a day and a quarter, but the impacts were insane. So let's go to central North Carolina. This was the scene afterwards, that you saw a staggering 5 to 10 inches of rain projected across the area. But I was seeing some radar estimates that are much higher. I'll show you that here in a little bit. But this met benchmarks that actually broke records from Fran. Hurricane Fran, which goes down in history as one of the worst flooding storms we've ever had. Now, Florence broke a lot of those records, just depending where you were. And this is a very weak storm. You had winds that did get up to about 50 miles per hour, but that's very low end for tropical storms. But it just shows it was even a tropical depression when it was dumping the most rain. This is one of the most significant inland flooding events that North Carolina has ever seen. And again, it was a low-end tropical storm. 4 people died from this, and this is going to cost millions to even billions of dollars in lasting damage. So that's number 2. Then we move over here to New Mexico. This is a staggering event because they had wildfires recently. And what happens during that process is you actually have a chemical process that happens from the burning of different plants where it creates this glossy layer. So let's go here. New Mexico. Wow. The rushing river, the sounds that you see here. There's at one point there was a house that was being carried downstream. So this is the Rio Ruidoso River, and it's right through the village of Ruidoso. It was this area that has a lot of bends and twists. There's the house that I'm talking about. Wow. You usually do not see this. We actually, last time we saw this was in Helene. I have to actually stop saying you usually don't see this because we're seeing it so much. And the house is just taking down full-size trees. It was certain parts of the village that were much, much more plagued by others. But what's really crazy here is that the nearest gauge was in Hollywood, New Mexico. The old record in 2008 was over 12 feet. The crest of this river, 20.24 feet. It beat the previous record by 8 feet. So a significant flood event there. And we're not done. What happens when you dump a lot of rain all at once on a city the size of Chicago? Let's go up to Chicago, Illinois. It's this area that saw up to about 3 to 7 inches of rain. So this just completely overwhelmed the sewer systems of Chicago. There were some claims that there was 5 inches of rain in about a 90-minute period. Those are very similar rainfall rates to what we were seeing in Texas and New Mexico that saw those 5 to 10 inch marks. Also the same thing in North Carolina. So all these kind of correlate to one another. And other stats with this, 6.6 inches was the absolute highest total that I saw that happened in about 2 hours. It just completely overwhelmed the drains. It's not often do you have this much rain in a city, but no, actually, yesterday, parts of Boston went underwater. So what's going on? First off, what is a 1 in 1,000 year rain event? And why are we seeing so many of them? It has nothing to do with, hey, only once in 1,000 years you're going to see this. It's about a law of average, where 1 in 100 years is a 1% chance of happening the way that things have been set up for rainfall events and flood events along river basins. But if you divide 1 by 1,000 in this case, it's a 0.1% chance. So very, very low comparatively to most rain events or most river floods. Same thing goes, matching numbers. There are some claims, kind of a mixed match of numbers, that the Chicago event was more of a 1 in 500 year event. But hey, truly, we're just splitting hairs here. Here's some of the rainfall events. I wanted to measure this a little bit closer home for North Carolina because we have some ongoing impacts. You saw a range about 10 to 15 inches of rain estimated, but this wasn't just from the tropical storm. This is also adding the most recent rains, where flooding can sometimes compound, where I do actually have a cause of concern here, where we actually have some active flooding right now and a major risk here along the Lumber River in Lumberton. 18.13 feet feet is near major flood stage, which is met at 19 feet. Now, the biggest story at Lumberton was back in 2018 from Florence. We're nowhere near that event, where that would need to be over 26 feet to actually overtake I-95. But this is just showing we already have swollen rivers. More rain could lead to more epic flooding. And the sad thing is, a lot more of these 1 in 1,000 year events are going to be on our doorstep. But hey, we're here for you as meteorologists and here on WCNC+. Let's head over to Majestic.
All right, good Friday morning, everyone. Let's take a look at those area roadways. If you were heading out the door, a few things you'll want to know. For the most part, everything is looking all right. Here's I-77 out there towards Gold Hill. So if you're heading inbound or outbound, not seeing anything majorly concerning that's out there in York County. Otherwise, this is our one ongoing accident. It's on Vernon Drive and Wendover Road. You can see that yellow there. That's indicating that cars are not completely stopped. They're just moving a little slower than they typically should this time of the day. You can see I-77 coming in from Rock Hill and Fort Mill. You're looking all right now, and I-85 looks fine as well. Out towards Gastonia and Belmont, taking you straight to Uptown. I-77 northbound heading towards Huntersville or Cornelius. You are all in the green. We'll have another check on those roads coming up here shortly, but for now, that's what I'm watching for your Friday morning commute.
All right, Majestic, thanks. Keep it right here on WCNC+. Coming up in just about 5 minutes, Jane Montreal is going to take over from our live Impact Stream studio. All the late live breaking events as they happen here in Charlotte and across the country coming your way right here on WCNC+.
Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the weekend. We're almost there. Friday's close enough, right? 92 is our high today. The normal high is 91. We have a cloudier start, so not a great-looking beginning to the day, but we'll see that sunshine crack here shortly. But there is a slight chance for a little bit of rain and a few passing thunderstorms today and tomorrow, especially. That's going to be our big chance going forward. Outside of that, you're just dealing with some on and off showers and thunderstorms. For our 10-day forecast, giving you one big finale, we're 92 to 95 over the next 4 days, back to lower 90s, and we pretty much stay there through next week, heading into next weekend. Majestic, take it away.
All right, good morning, everyone. I-77, live look outside, all looking all right. We have a couple of ongoing minor wrecks to let you know about, but nothing too significant for that Friday morning commute. First one right here, it's our newest one. We currently have a lane that's blocked because of a crash. It's on Hawthorne Lane and 4th Street, seeing some slowdowns there. An additional crash here on Vernon Drive at Wendover Road, so take it easy. Again, not seeing anything too significant across our interstates. Hope you have a great Friday and had to be safe out on those roads.